Welcome back tuning into today's video. Just going to have a quick look at weather for the next sort of 8 to 10 days. Today looks like we're going to see a bit of an Atlantic ridge coming along later in the period, around the 18th, 19th, 20th of November. That could start to push the winds into a northerly direction, so we could be looking at some colder weather coming up actually as we go into the final week to 10 days of November. Of course, it's well publicised, it's well predicted by the longer range models. They have been predicting this change at that stage of November to a colder scenario, and I think we're seeing the models begin to pick up on that at the moment. So if I go on the video, the advertising, there's video ads on my page at gazweathervids.com. You hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazweathervids.com by doing that. Apologies for not having a longer range update for you today, as I normally do on a Sunday. I had a very bad cough yesterday and I wasn't able to talk for 15-20 minutes as I do on those longer range updates. Hopefully everything will be back to normal next Sunday, and we'll do another update for the winter of 2013-2014. Although I should just say at the very end of this video we will have a look at some anomalies from the CFS model for December, January and February. They're looking quite interesting this morning. So starting off with the mean 500 millibar flow charts, so we've got the ECMWF on the left. The GFS is over on the right. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is where we've got weather going on in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure developing, and as those areas of high pressure and low pressure areas are moved around by the jet stream, that is essentially what gives us weather. So the ECMWF shows that for 8 to 10 days time, which is taking us, as I say, from around the 18th to the 20th of November. We've got this large ridge in the Atlantic. We've got a trough of low pressure sitting to the north of the country, but the main thing is that between the two masses, the jet stream is being pulled around to the northwest, and we bring down colder air. We're starting to bring down colder air from the north around that trough with the Atlantic, with the ridge, I say, pulling back into the Atlantic. The GFS very similar, in fact has the ridge pulling further back into the Atlantic, and the ECMWF is putting right way back and going up towards Greenland now, and we are sending down the trough through British Isles and to the east of the country. And notice this ridge, both the ECMWF and the GFS do have this above area of heights, this above average area of heights, a ridge sitting to the northeast of the country, to the east of Scandinavia and around western Russia. Eventually we could well find these troughs becoming cut off to the south country. That's where it could all go to, I think, as going to the final week of November. We could find these this blue area, the trough being cut off to the south of the British Isles, and we may extend the two ridges from the Atlantic and to the east of Scandinavia, may extend them together and finish up with an east or northeast wind, pulling in some pretty cold air off the continent. That's for the final week of November. So just having a look at the generic charts, this is for GFS, and we can see that for Saturday, 16th, we're in a fairly flat sort of flow. We've got the high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, bringing these west winds. We're actually going to have quite a dryish week, I think, across England and Wales this week, with a ridge of high pressure very close, but it'll always be more of a settle to the north and the northwest. Now, as we run through, what we find is that the low pressure starts to push through, and there's the trough beginning to elongate there across the country as we go through to Monday, the 18th, with that ridge, as I say, pulling back into the Atlantic. Definite signs of the trough elongating, and with the trough elongating across the country, we are pulling down more of a northerly wind, so it is turning colder across parts of the country. There's the mid-Atlantic ridge. So it's not a desperately cold pattern, this. It's not a real northerly blast, although the midnight run of the GFS did show a proper northerly blast coming in, but I think that was a bit overdone. This is probably a little bit more sensible, but the main thing is that we're pulling in colder air into this elongation of the trough, and the black line here is the jet stream. We can see the jet stream is sinking southwards with that trough. So the idea really is that we're building a ridge in the mid-Atlantic, and yeah, we're starting to elongate the trough, pull colder air in gradually from the north and northwest. But it's a gradual process. It's probably not going to be a dramatic sort of switch to bitterly cold weather, but I think over time we are going to see things turning cold and colder, and certainly for the north the showers will probably turn increasingly wintry as we go up to around the 20th of November. ECMWF again showing that flat flow across the country through Saturday as we move on Beyond that, again, what does the ECMWF do with that ridge in the Atlantic? Well, it moves the trough southwards across the country, builds up the ridge, but we have another low pressure there around Iceland, so we don't pull down excuse me, a northerly wind, but we do find eventually the ridge pulling further out into the Atlantic, starting to bring this trough through across the country. So as we get through to Wednesday the 20th, again it's the same idea. We've got the ridge in the mid-Atlantic pulling down this colder northwesterly flow around this area of low pressure, and the jet stream again is beginning to sink southwards. We're on the cold side of jet. The black line is going down into southern parts of France, Spain and Portugal. So again, it's the same idea, but over time we're turning it gradually colder as we go up to the 20th. Not a dramatic switch, but it is turning cold with that ridge building in the Atlantic. The GEM, the Canadian model, again showing that high pressure is in the mid-Atlantic, not particularly cold until we get to around day 10, Wednesday the 20th, and then we start to really push that high pressure out into the northern Atlantic and shows signs of trying to get it up towards Greenland. Very deep trough of low pressure there to the north of Scotland as well, bringing down some pretty cold northwesterly winds. So it is going to be turning a little bit colder. If that's right, it'll be turning quite windy, lots of heavy showers revolving around that area of low pressure, and wintry conditions probably likely for Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. Again, I have to emphasise this isn't a severely cold pattern that's setting up yet, but it's just a gradual slip as we go to around the 20th of November into more wintry type conditions. But to get a really wintry pattern, we've got to take that ridge up to Greenland and set it up over Greenland for an extended period. If that happens, then we'll start to really open the floodgates to properly cold air. There's no real signs of that at the moment, but it could end up going to that sort of direction. Finally, have a look, as I promised, at the monthly anomalies from the CFS model. This is just updated at the website Meteo still, very latest update for December, January, February. For December, we see the ridge sitting over the country and going up to the northwest of the country, up towards Iceland and Greenland. And if that's right, that's suggesting quite a dry December with pretty cold conditions, probably a lot of frost and fog. As we move through to January, the anomaly shows we've got a big blocking feature there to the north of the country from Iceland, extending out towards Scandinavia. Really, really cold air being pulled in from the east and the northeast. If that's right, with the trough going underneath through the Mediterranean, that would be a bitterly cold January with lots of heavy snow. And for February, look at this, the trough sort of extends through into the British Isles further, but look at that ridge that's going on to the north of the country around Iceland and Greenland. Again, massively above average heights, actually upper scale in terms of the above average heights over Greenland. Remember, these are anomalies, so this probably isn't a continuous pattern throughout the whole of February, but nevertheless, that's a severely cold and very wintry looking pattern for February, because with the ridge up there, we're pulling in that severely cold air out of the Arctic, and the trough over the country will be providing copious amounts of precipitation, much of which will be falling as snow. The temperature anomalies for the winter, this is December, actually this is showing slightly above average, but what you have to keep in mind with this is it's a very anticyclonic month, so you get lots of frost and fog, so I think you could take at least a couple of degrees off that, and it would be nearer normal, if not a little bit below average. January looking very, very cold. The anomalies for January as low as 4 degrees below average. So that's, if you think that January is a cold month anyway, 4 degrees below the average would be a really, really cold month. Then for February, again, it is below average, not quite as extensively below average as January. It's the anomalies are 2 degrees below average. But what you have to keep in mind about that is that with more of a trough type influence over the country, the temperatures have lifted up a little bit, but there'd be a lot of potential for snow in February. So a really severe winter being signalled by the CFS model, or a severe January and February anyway, being signalled by the CFS model on today's update. Now, what you have to keep in mind about these longer range charts is that they're highly experimental, they chop and change, so you can't take it too seriously. But it's interesting about this close to winter, the CFS model is still seeing the potential for something really quite significant to take place in January and February. So we'll keep an eye on that later on. I'll be doing another Christmas update, hopefully. So come back this evening for another Christmas update. Again, it'll be from the longer range CFS model at website BTOCL. That's it for now. I hope you found the video interesting. Again, apologies for not being able to do a proper longer range update today. Hopefully we'll be back to normal next Sunday. That's it for now. Sorry about the background noise as well. We're doing some renovations to the house still. So sorry about that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.